Welcome to the Car Guys. This week we have got something ultra special.
We're about to break the internet, folks, because we've got the 812 Superfast versus the F12 TDF.
Enjoy.
What we've got here today for you is the TDF versus the 812
versus the 812. This is the most amazing day of my life.
Interior, the exterior, the handling,
what it's like to drive them, what it's like to live with them.
And then we're going to tell you exactly what we think and which one we think is best. Are we ready?
We are ready. Looking at the front end of these cars, TDF obviously is not a direct comparison because this is a super special car. So it's got more vents, it's got more fins and things on it. The major difference is that this nose now isn't so pronounced on the 812. You've got a much flatter front end to it, but you have a new spoiler that runs across the front of the car. You've got different vents down the side where you've just got the nose here, you've got vents down the side of the 812. Headlights, very similar. The 812 headlights wrap around a bit further at the front, and you've got this lovely body panel where the bonnet closes, which has got this lovely little gap through it. This is much more pronounced in the middle. The 812 is scalloped, which actually loses quite a lot of weight out the front of the car. It doesn't feel quite so wide that way. But what it has lost, which is the bit that I particularly like about the F12s, is the fins on the side of the car. The way that the body ducks round and you have that piece of body panel that comes across. That, to me, is one of the greatest design clues in all of the Ferraris.
Around the back of the cars is probably where you can see the biggest change, or most dramatic, certainly between the TDF and the 812 as opposed to the regular F12. The TDF has its signature shark gills, which is one of its key features. It's the most beautiful design aspect on the TDF, and it harks back to the 60s. But as you can see here, we've still got some aero, some venting going on. It's just not quite as beautiful as this. The rear of the car has two large circular brake lights and standard lights all combined into one with this strip of carbon running through. The 812 has pulled in the new GTC4 Lusso deep dish rear lights, which actually out of the two I very much prefer. We've got completely different diffuser structures going on. We've got the central fog light on the F12, and of course this TDF's got the ceramic exhausts on it, which this test car doesn't.
So we lose the blades from the F12 on the new 812, but what we gain is this enormous scoop. And this is for releasing air pressure from the front wheels. So there's a nice little grille on this side, very much like the F40 has got a very similar grille, and that's to stop stones shooting up the side and scratching a very expensive 16 grand paint job. This TDF has got swathes of beautiful gloss carbon in the engine bay. Big air intakes, the rocker covers and air intakes and the injection system on the TDF has changed on the 812. This V12 in the TDF, 6.3 litre, puts out an enormous, frankly ridiculous 769 brake horsepower. The new 812, enlarged to 6.5 litres, puts out, wait for it, 789 horsepower. 789 horsepower. That is just bonkers. This TDF obviously has the signed carbon engine bay, which doesn't really make it a fair fight because that is amazing.
Here we are in the 812 Superfast, so you can see structure and layout virtually identical to the point that this piece here, which you think makes it look different, is in fact just a bolt-on plaque essentially. You can see this has been, what's the kindest way of saying it? Conservatively spec'd. So no carbon fibre whatsoever in this demo car. The main thing to bear in mind with both these V12s is how far back the engine sits in the engine bay. That gives the 812 a 53-47% weight distribution in favour of the rear.
Here we go, the boot area of your 812. Plenty of rooms for a half set of clubs for the lady and a couple of nice bags. And just for comparison purposes, the boot area of the... Oh my God, it's exactly the same!
So the 812 Superfast interior, actually quite an improvement over the F12.
Massive improvement.
Full leather in this one, all round with red stitching. Radically changed dashboard, much larger, lovely, funky colour passenger display.
With G-force on it this time as well.
Exactly, so even more terrifying for the passenger, which is fantastic.
Not 8-bit graphics like the old one.
No, it's the difference between a Sinclair ZX81 and probably an Xbox. Everything's a lot cleaner though. The centre bit here, rather than the LaFerrari stalk, you've got a more integrated plastic unit with the same 3 buttons on it. You've got lovely carbon in there. You've got a bit of storage in this sort of perforated sort of
yeah, not sure about that
bit here, not sure. The steering wheel is slightly smaller and everything is a bit more compact. So this car's got the telephone package on it. Smaller buttons now for engine start and stop and for the bumpy road setting. You've got quite a colossal Lego brick type light control, which is for a high beam and for flashing. It's like one big piece now. The Manatino has changed, the button, the texture has changed. The whole area is
raised. From the steering wheel.
So maybe that makes it easier to turn, but I don't think it makes any difference. Biggest change on the steering wheel, beautiful GTC4 Lusso indicators. So the indicators are massively improved and that means they actually work, which makes me very, very happy. They flipped the TFT split screens round unnecessarily, so now the things that you're used to seeing on the left-hand side are now different.
And moved the radio control as well from the right to the left.
Yeah, exactly. The buttons themselves, if anything, they're still a bit imprecise. This whole sort of way of controlling these screens is still pretty horrible and a bit messy and quite difficult to use on the go.
Back in the cabin is TDF. Beautiful swathes of beautifully satin carbon everywhere. Red ringed outlets for all of the air conditioning system. Console with the reverse auto and launch control on it from the Speziale and the LaFerrari. Fairly simple in here. Steering wheel hasn't changed that much. There are some subtle differences. Other than that, it's fairly similar.
This is it then, the new 812 Superfast from Ferrari.
Well, I'm loving the new interior. Such a step on. The exterior of the car feels like a bit of a facelift, but the interior is such a step on from the old F12.
It feels quieter, definitely noticeably quieter than the F12, just in terms of bass engine noise and drone.
Yeah, you can hear the kind of singing, but it's a couple of decibels below where it used to be.
You said from the outside though, it actually didn't sound that amazing.
No, it didn't. On start up, it sounded fairly dull, to be honest. When you rev it, there is a different. They must have done some exhaust treatment to it because it's a different sound. I don't like these seats.
They're the same seats.
Are they? They don't feel the same seats. Suspension-wise, what do we think? Stiffer?
I think it's slightly more compliant than say the TDF variant, but in terms of standard F12, it feels pretty similar to me, to be honest. But for some reason, even though they're pretty much the same size cars, this feels a lot more nimble, a lot more live, and a lot more controllable on British roads. I think it's got the latest generation rear wheel steer and electric steering for the first time as well. So this is like the new steering, which I have to say, I can't really tell the difference in terms of feel to the old steering.
Oh, wiggle, wiggle.
Honestly, it's so controllable. Even there, see, that wasn't... We were never in danger at that point then.
Well, you might not have been in danger. I feel quite endangered. It feels less likely to murder you than the F12 would have done in that same situation because of carrying all that bulk over those different changes of camber and different changes of surface. And
it's very, very nimble. It's obviously ludicrously quick. The handling and the traction is there, and you can stop. So that combination...
So it's more user-friendly than the TDF ever was?
Yes, but it's an unbeatable GT car. So out in the TDF, the first thing that hits you immediately compared to the 812 Superfast is that this thing is all over the place. It is trying to kill you. I am left, I'm right, I've got wheel spin, I've got fidgetiness. This thing is scary as hell compared to the 812, which is of course utterly planted and civilized.
It is utterly planted, it is very civilised, but it is a slightly different car to this. So we're not exactly comparing apples with apples, we are kind of comparing apples with maybe a peach.
Good point, because of course this is the super
version, right?
Yeah, super special version versus the Bogo standard.
Bogo standard one.
Yeah.
However,
that being said,
a lot of the mechanics of the TDF were translated into the 812. So they brought on a lot of the aerodynamic stuff to the 812, and it's kind of, an 812 is considered to be what, a kind of 90% TDF, but they couldn't be more different, really.
Yeah, that's what's interesting, is it's definitely not a case of the TDF was the development platform for the 812.
No.
It definitely shares some elements. Obviously there's lots of stuff that was brought over, but this is a very, 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 very different animal.
Yeah, so for example, a nail bed or a bed of nails was the development platform for the TDF, whereas a cotton wool bed was the development platform for the F12. Completely different starting points.
The 812, gently nuzzling your balls,
Gently.
versus slamming them in a door.
Exactly, that's what it is.
We've said it before, but the best analogy we can make really on the TDF is it's just like a Eurofighter Typhoon, in that it is utterly dynamically built to be unstable, and it's only the electronics and all those things that are actually keeping it on the road and you being able to drive it at all. It feels bigger, straight, you know, without a doubt. It's a much bigger feeling car. There's a lot more skittiness, there's a lot more movement. You're constantly having to adjust the steering wheel, which does make it far more exciting and exhilarating to drive.
The other thing I notice is the noise. So much better in this.
Let's have some of that engine. Here we go. Ready? Oh my God. It's all about the engine, isn't it? I mean,
All about
wow. We haven't mentioned that much about the 812 engine. It feels smoother. It obviously feels very, very powerful. I mean, I'm struggling to compare the two engines though, because the 812 can put the power down, whereas this just spins. Yeah, mostly.
In the wet,
yeah.
It wasn't particularly good at that, was it?
But you can deploy more of the power more of the time in the 812 than this.
Yes, definitely.
This one, it just feels like you're going to die. We're going to die!
The other thing I noticed about the 812, especially when it started to get a little bit damp, didn't inspire an awful lot of confidence about how much grip was available to you.
Right.
So in the dry, you were fairly comfortable that regardless of what speed you were going, you could turn the steering wheel and it would turn into the corner.
Yep.
Whereas once it got a little bit slippery, that all seemed to go away.
The ironic thing is how the 812 feels in the wet is basically how this feels in the dry.
All the time.
Oh, all the time. You ready for some beanage?
Beanage? Really?
Oh, I mean, it was trying to put down that power, wasn't it? Just so you know, ladies and gentlemen, I am not turning off the traction control.
No.
Not.
No.
I can't even dare put my foot all the way down. So what you're getting there is not full acceleration, but how much
I'm thankful for that, I have to be honest. I'm quite thankful for that.
I'm not sure. I'm just wondering whether I've ever actually felt the carpet in this car. Have I ever pushed it all the way? Because it's too terrifying.
You're not going to try it now, are you? Really?
That's not even foot down either. That's just not.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Too scared.
It's literally, when you put your foot on the accelerator, it literally changed lanes. It absolutely changed lanes. This car is an animal.
The biggest difference is the rawness of the engine sound, the rawness of the delivery, the rawness of the gear changes. That's the big differentiator between the two cars. No question the TDF is the better looking car from the outside. It does make the 812 Superfast a very tantalising
Oh, what? Like
prospect.
a TDF Superfast?
Yeah. So is it fair to compare the TDF with the 812?
For the purposes of utterly breaking the internet, because we've done a versus video, yes.
Yes, it is. But I mean, we are comparing the outgoing model with the incoming model.
Yeah, and as I say, it's supposed to be 90% of a TDF or 80% of a TDF.
Yeah.
So there are lots of aspects about the 812 that are very good.
Almost everything.
Right? Almost everything. There's an everyday GT, lovely car that you can jump in and drive, and then hack it round lanes, sit on the motorway at 200 miles an hour. The whole thing is the complete package. It feels like a much bigger car than the 812, doesn't it?
Doesn't it? What is it? What is it with this?
Don't know. I have no idea what they've done to that 812, but they've done an amazing job of shrinking it round you. I think though the 812, because of that rear wheel steer, is a bit pointier.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
It's definitely
This has got rear wheel steering as well.
not quite as sophisticated though, is it?
No, it's version 1. You know, frangipane, as you would say.
I barely moved that throttle by like
This is it.
millimetres.
This is it. You have to be so brave to find the stops on this accelerator.
I don't think I could ever be that brave. I don't care how old I am. It hasn't got quite as much front end grip as the 812. But it's tremendous though, isn't it? My heart's racing, the adrenaline's pumping. It is absolutely true. Oh, that was a GoPro.
We just lost a GoPro.
Just lost a GoPro.
Man down, man down. Now we've compared both cars, we're going to go back to Car Guys HQ, calm down a little bit, let our hearts rest, and then we're going to take you through which one is the best. Okay, so we've driven both cars, we've compared the looks, we've compared the handling, we've compared every aspect of these two magnificent Ferraris. Jason, which one do you think's best?
I think, for my personal point of view, this is the better one of the two. And I'm going to get harangued on the internet for this.
I think most people will say this.
Do you think so?
Yeah. I think there's a lot of love for the TDF.
The thing that I love about it is its nervousness, the scariness of it, the fact that it tries to kill you every time you get in it. I love that about supercars, as we well know. I like them to move about. I like a little bit of skittishness. And as frightening as the 812 was in the wet, it's still no TDF. I
agree. I think the TDF is overall the better car, taking into account looks, scariness, incredible noise, rawness, the fact that it's limited, the fact that it's got quite a lot of special mystique about it. But the 812 as a starting point is epic. It is a truly fantastic GT car, without a doubt the best GT car you can buy.
Yeah, absolutely. An 812 in your garage, you will not be disappointed. It's not quite a TDF, but then not many things are.
What it means is, just imagine what the special 812 is going to be like.
Woo-hoo.
Thanks for watching the video, guys. Hope you enjoyed this comparison between these two mighty Ferrari V12s.
The greatest of the modern V12 Ferraris. Don't forget to subscribe, ding the notification bell and leave comments below. And don't forget to follow us on our Instagram at TheCarGuys.TV.
See you for another episode next week.
Cheers.